Yo, yo, yo. What's going on, Jets Nation? This is Jets Talk with Umbro and Tom O. Normally, I'd be your boy in the beanie, but as you can see, the beanie is in his hands, not on my head. Part of the reason is I got drunk. I left my beanie at his place, but also you can say that we're celebrating today because Robert Saleh, for the past few days, has been the head coach of the New York Jets, and for the most part, Jets fans are very excited, including myself. We're going to talk about him, some of his background and what to expect moving forward. So with that being said, as of Thursday night, Friday morning, Robert Saleh was named head coach, and most of you are going to know him as the defensive coordinator or former defensive coordinator for the 49ers, who put up some really good numbers for the past 3 years. He was part of a Super Bowl run. And people just love him for his fiery energy and, his, the fact that players just love playing for him, right? So, Tomo, with that being said, what can we say about his background outside of it?
Hey man, he's got a lot of experience. I'm also extremely fired up that we got him. Just seeing him, I'm not sure if you've seen him on TV, just sitting on the sidelines. That man has so much energy, just running up and down there. I absolutely love the signing, and I'm really excited for the Jets for this one.
Dude, me too. He does have a lot of experience. A lot of you know him from the Niners. He was also part of that Chiefs defensive staff when they were on that Super Bowl run as well. Obviously, it's pretty cool. He's of Lebanese descent. For those of you who don't know, his brother was actually a victim of 9/11. He was in one of those towers, which was very unfortunate. And, he got into coaching for the simple reason that, if your life could end at literally any point in time, you might as well do something you love in the meantime. And, that's kind of how he got into coaching. So he worked his way up between, being an assistant for, I believe he was an assistant for,
I was an assistant for the Texans, for the Seahawks, the Jags.
Texans, Seahawks, Jags. Eventually worked his way out to the 49ers staff where he was the defensive coordinator. He's been in the league for about 15 years now. And, ultimately, he's done one hell of a job and he's earned this role. So obviously everybody knows Saleh for his fiery energy, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is this man's attention to detail is nothing like we've ever seen before. So, with that being said, people know Saleh for defense, and the Jets were going into this search looking for a CEO type, somebody who can come in, delegate, and run, manage the entire team. So a lot of people are assuming maybe, he's a defensive coordinator. He's probably just going to come in and run the defense while the offensive coordinator runs the offense, kind of like how Gase and Greg Williams worked in the previous regime. But, is that going to be the same type of thing, or do we think Saleh has a real chance to be able to manage a 53-man roster?
So I think that Saleh does have a chance to manage a 53, player roster. Now, with that being said, I do think that he is going to obviously be delegating a lot of the offensive responsibilities to, the Mike LaFleur, who's Matt LaFleur's younger brother. I do think he's going to be delegating a lot of the offensive responsibility to him. But with that being said, he was an ex-tight end in college. He has had, a coaching stint as offensive assistant in Michigan State. Right. It's not like the guy's, incompetent in that. And I think it's something that he can bring with him. But when it's all said and done, I think that the offensive responsibilities are going to fall into the hands of Mike LaFleur. But I really like that, honestly, because obviously the Jets need a lot of help.
Yeah, you can definitely say that. And listen, Mike LaFleur, people hear the name LaFleur and automatically think he's going to be a really good offensive coordinator. But that's not really the only reason. He's part of this Shanahan coaching tree, as is Saleh. So, obviously, he's going to make an impact on the defense, mainly because it's a very young and inexperienced defense outside of, Quinnen Williams, and we'll see if Marcus May gets re-signed. I'm hoping he does because he's one of the better safeties in football. But with that being said, right, I think it's going to take the likes of Saleh to manage that side. But the big question is offense. I think Saleh has an opportunity to kind of manage that side as well. And he's obviously bringing in guys he trusts, guys he knows. Obviously, LaFleur is the offense coordinator. He's going to bring in that Shanahan system, which most people just assume is like a West Coast quick rhythm offense. But it's going to be a lot more than that. I think it's going to be very heavy in terms of the run game. I think it's going to benefit Mekhi Becton. I think it's going to benefit whoever's going to be in there running back. And, I think you get a couple of new guards in there and, improve that guard play. And, you could see a very good rushing team. And then another piece of the staff that we actually just found out today, I think it's a huge hire. Greg Knapp is the quarterback's coach now for the Jets. And he's coached the likes of Michael Vick, Peyton Manning, and Matt Ryan, which is absolutely huge. And, we all know how those guys kind of turned out. Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. Matt Ryan has had a lot of successful seasons, as did Michael Vick, and all of which are very different players. Like, none of those guys are the same. You've got Vick, who was a scrambler, who was a very talented passer, all in the same. Obviously, Peyton Manning was that field general, that pre-snap god. For that's kind of like what I like to say. And then Matt Ryan is he's a jack of all trades in terms of being a pocket passer. He's very good in that aspect, and he just has really good decision making. So with that, you have Greg Knapp, you have LaFleur. I believe the running game coordinator and the offensive line coach is going to be John Benton, who's actually had a pretty successful career as well. He's worked with the Rams, the Texans, the Dolphins, and Jacksonville Jaguars in 2016 when they had that playoff run, interesting enough. So guys like Fournette were running the ball. Arian Foster was with the Texans at the time. You also look at the 49ers very recently, who had the likes of Raheem Morris and, Raheem Grant, I believe it was. So, these guys have had very successful seasons.
Raheem Mostert,
Raheem Mostert, excuse me. So, I think it benefits Mekhi Becton greatly and the rest of the offensive line as well, whoever those pieces are going to be. So I think you're finally going to see an identity on offense just because of the continuity with the staff that have already worked together out in San Francisco. So with that being said, right, there's a lot to dive into here in terms of the roster, right? How is this going to impact Sam Darnold, right? A lot of people are speculating now that Saleh is the coach that Sam Darnold has a legitimate chance to stick around. Am I buying that? Are you buying that, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've been saying all along since we lost the first pick with Trevor Lawrence that there was a chance that, we go a different direction that's not quarterback in the draft and really do stick with Sam Darnold. And, the closer and closer we get, I think it's becoming more and more realistic. Whether it's Sam Darnold or maybe they do a crazy trade for Deshaun Watson, I think, that Sam Darnold is getting a little bit more likely. So when we're looking at that number 2 spot, which we love so much,
right.
I do think that it still comes down to, Penei Sewell or maybe trading down and taking a receiver, outside the top 10 or just, right around 10. I think that would make a lot of sense for the Jets as well.
Right. So I think Sam Darnold benefits from this move greatly. And, you and I have been talking about how good a fit Sam Darnold would have been in San Francisco, given the Kyle Shanahan offense, right? The quick rhythm passing, the bootlegs, the heavy run game. And now that's coming to New York, which, you could definitely argue Sam Darnold has a legit shot at really revitalizing his career in New York. I do want to touch a little bit on Deshaun Watson, and, it's becoming very likely that it's between the Jets and Dolphins for his services. It's looking very unlikely that he's going to be sticking around in Houston. He's not answering phone calls. I think it's only a matter of time before he starts deleting social media photos of him in Texans uniforms and things of that nature. So what would it take to bring in Deshaun Watson? Because right now that guy has all the power. I don't think the Texans really have much to offer him at this point, unless they were to hire Eric Bieniemy, but is it too little too late?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is too little, too late in terms of the Deshaun Watson thing. I mean, I think he's out of Houston. It's just a matter of time at this point for the right price. He's definitely going to cost at least, I would say, at least 2 rounds, or 2 first rounds. Sorry, so probably like a first round this year, a first round next year for somebody. Like you said, there's a few teams with 2 first rounds this year, the Jets and the Dolphins,
Right.
which is why we are a front runner. So I do think it's very possible. To be honest with you, of course, I would love if the Jets got Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like kind of where we're at right now, isn't it just going to be if we trade all of that for Deshaun Watson, the same situation that he just came from? Giving up all these different assets to just to use him. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of find that when we have so many holes, we want to fill up more rather than just giving away all of our top picks for a guy that we know is going to be good, but an injury or something like that completely ruins an entire year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you can argue a couple of things. Personally, though, I don't think it's going to cost as much as what people are saying. And I thought a lot about this because that number 2 pick does hold so much value. You could trade that number 2 pick and maybe one of our first round picks next year. And depending on how high that is for Deshaun Watson, one trade back from that number 2 spot could give the Texans all the draft capital that they lost in, from, all of Brian. Oh my goodness. I'm like blanking out with names today. Their former head coach. But,
I'm blanking on his name as well.
All of his debacles.
It doesn't matter. Brian, whatever.
All his shenanigans there, trading D-Hop and whatever. And, they have no draft picks. They have no money really to spend. So that number 2 pick could turn into 3 or 4 picks very easily for a team like Houston if they were to trade back and start again from scratch. And they weren't winning even with Deshaun Watson. So obviously the problem wasn't just at quarterback. So even if they wanted to take a quarterback at number 2, you're kind of right back to square one, except now, instead of Deshaun Watson, you have a Zach Wilson or a Justin Fields on a rookie contract, which is fine, but their best receiver is still Brandon Cooks, and David Johnson's still their running back, and they don't have any offensive line. So that said, giving up that number 2 pick would probably mean giving up 3 or 4 picks realistically, and then obviously a 2021 first or 2022 first round pick would also be an icing on the cake. And then you could throw in Sam Darnold as well if that's the route you want to go. Just to add a key piece, right? So, it's definitely something to think about. But assuming they did stick with Sam Darnold, and I think it would be the right move if they did. I also think it would be a good move to go snag Watson, depending on the price. But that said, I still think a trade down is what they need to do.
In terms of what you said about Deshaun Watson, not necessarily costing as much as people think, I really agree with you on that as well. Obviously, he's worth so much and he's such a valuable player, but he's completely in the driver's seat right now in the sense that he has no desire to play for the Texans anymore, to the point where he's not going to be. So it's almost like they need to get rid of him. So, yeah, what they can get is great, but I don't think he's going to necessarily be worth, the franchise for him. You know what I mean?
Right. But you know what? Essentially, with the deal I'm throwing out there, you would basically trade Jamal Adams for Deshaun Watson. And let's be honest, it's a pretty good deal. But assuming they keep Sam Darnold, I think you got to trade back, accumulate 1 or 2 more picks in that first round. You could go with, you could trade back, grab Devontae Smith. This way you have like a number 1 guy on a rookie contract. And you could also go, with maybe Rashawn Slater late in the draft. This way, if you still wanted that bookend tackle combo or somebody like Wyatt Davis or, Trey Smith, you could totally do that as well and kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone on the offense. But I think it also gives them an opportunity to draft a really good edge rusher, somebody like Joseph Asai or, maybe Kwity Paye slides a little bit. Gregory Rousseau, who I think is still very raw, but, getting him late in the first round would be still pretty good value there. And I think a guy like Robert Saleh would be able to get the best out of him. And then obviously, maybe you get a stud corner. So you get a lot more flexibility with the trade back, but if they were to take Sewell at 2, I'm not mad about it either. And I think what you have in this hire, Tom, which I think is super, super important, is 2 guys with the same long-term vision. as opposed to one guy who's going to, sign a bunch of contracts for a quick fix and, one playoff run and, at the cost of another 2-3 year setback. I think you have two guys who are going to put their heads together and really build something special for not just now, but in the future as well. So they're not going to win a lot in 2021. I just want to manage expectations right now. 2021 is going to be a very average year. It's going to be. I think 8-8 is the best case scenario, and because they're still so young and still inexperienced. They could do a quick turnaround like Miami did this year, but I'm not buying it. 2022, I think they'll assuming things go in the right direction, that's probably when you'll start to see them really compete for playoff spots and, so forth. And then from 2023 on, you expect a consistent winner. And I think that's what Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are going to put their heads together and build, right? I think with Saleh, you have a team builder, somebody who understands that it's not just about like the guys that you have, but, I know I saw him in one of his interviews way back, and he was like, listen, like your staff is a part of you. It's such a big part of who you are, because ultimately I know what I'm good at and I'm not good at everything. And that's why I have the guys around me and my staff to make things, to kind of make up for for what I lack. Right. So it seems like he's got a really sensible, reasonable head on his shoulders. And, it seems like in his mind, he's brought in the right guys to kind of make up for what he's unable to do or what he's maybe not best at. So, I'm very fired up about the hire. It's not just about the fiery energy. Like, he's not Rex Ryan. This is a guy we're going to see bring attention to detail, not just on the defensive side of the ball, but I think on offense and special teams as well. You have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I honestly completely agree with everything that you said. I think it's awesome. He brought an all-star staff. He's a guy that pays attention to detail, but also is an absolute motivator and a player's coach. The guys are going to want to play for him, and they have a lot of respect for the guy. So I think it's an awesome signing, and I'm really fired up for the Jets as well. It's a step in the right direction.
Amazing. So I guess one last thing, right? Let's say it's not Sam Darnold or Deshaun Watson, because I feel like we have to kind of cover that as well. Is it Justin Fields? Is it Zach Wilson? Is it maybe Trey Lance a little bit later? Who's the quarterback in this draft that fits that offense the best?
I mean, I still think, I think Zach Wilson would fit really well in like a 49ers type offense. If that's what I assume, that's kind of what Mike LaFleur is going to be kind of doing a little bit. Obviously not exactly that, but he'll have his own variation, I assume. But anyway, I think that, Zach Wilson would be a perfect fit. I still do think that Justin Fields is a little bit better of a player, just a little bit more versatile, can do a little bit more with him. And I loved just the way he played in the college football playoff and his toughness that he showed. Right. So I do think it's possible that they would still go Justin Fields if they were interested in a quarterback. But with that being said, again, at this point, I'm leaning away from the Jets actually going quarterback, and I think that they won't.
I agree. And it's funny. I was going to say Zach Wilson as well, and even Zach Wilson thinks so. I saw him in an interview. I think it was either a Zoom interview or a Microsoft Teams interview with, I think it was Connor. He's a Jets reporter, Connor Grant, I think it is. And he goes, yeah, so what kind of system do you see yourself in best? And Zach Wilson was like, listen, I watched a lot of Kyle Shanahan, and I think I would resonate perfectly in that type of system. Now, granted, what that means in terms of like what to speculate, it means absolutely nothing. But I just thought it was funny that you brought that up. Listen, I give a thumbs up for Saleh. I want to see his press conference, and I want to see how this team gets built over the offseason and what to expect moving forward. And it's going to be a very interesting draft for sure, because there's a lot of different things they can do with that number 2 pick. Are they going to trade for Watson? Are they going to trade back? Are they going to take Sewell or a quarterback at 2? Are they maybe going to go receiver later? It's a lot. Like, what are they going to address? What's going to be the identity of the Jets in 2021? Obviously, is going to be the first step. So, I guess with that, if you have anything to add, it's all good. But I'm very excited. Any last words?
Nah, it's a thumbs up for me for sure. That's all.
Amazing. Well, listen, man, it's what's that?
Said I'm fired up for it. It's super delayed, this video.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom. I think it's my Wi-Fi, and I'm going to apologize to the viewers out there for that. And I actually won't be living in this apartment anymore come the end of the month, so I will be in Seabright, New Jersey, ultimately where the Wi-Fi is at. So, with that, I'm Umbro. It's Tom O. I will have the beanie next time, and I'm very excited for that. But I figured I'd rock the ball today in celebration of our new coach. And this was Jets Talk with Umbro, Tom O, and I'll catch you guys next time.